The morning Kai Winters told his father he was getting rid of Maverick, the sky over their Montana ranch turned the color of old bruises, purple and gray, threatening rain that wouldn't come. That bull's useless, Kai said, leaning against the fence of the isolation pen where Maverick stood alone, separated from the rest of the herd. 4 years old and he won't breed. Won't fight. Just stands there like he's scared of his own shadow. We're wasting feed on an animal that'll never earn back what we've put into him. His father, Elliot Winters, didn't look up from the fence post he was repairing. At 62, Elliot had run the Double W Ranch for 40 years, survived droughts and market crashes and the death of Kai's mother 3 years ago. He'd taught his son everything about ranching, except, apparently, patience. Maverick's young yet, Elliot said quietly. Some bulls are late bloomers. He's 4. That's not young. Every other bull we've raised is breeding by 3, aggressive and dominant. Maverick acts like a damn house pet. Riley won't even let him near the cows anymore because he just backs away from the other bulls. Riley Chen, their ranch foreman, approached with a tablet showing the herd records. At 28, she was younger than Kai but had more ranching experience, having grown up on her family's cattle operation in Wyoming before taking this job 2 years ago. Morning, she said, her tone neutral but her eyes showing concern. What's the decision on Maverick? He's going, Kai said firmly. I've got a buyer coming Saturday, taking him for beef. We'll get maybe $1,200 for him. Better than nothing. Riley's jaw tightened. Kai, I've been watching him. There's something different about Maverick, something we're missing. He's not aggressive, but he's not weak either. He's just careful. Strategic. Strategic? Kai laughed bitterly. Riley, he's a breeding bull who won't breed. That's not strategy, that's failure. And this ranch can't afford to keep failures around. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning beyond just the bull. Everyone knew the Double W was struggling. Kai's younger sister Sage had left for college in Seattle last fall, taking out student loans the family couldn't help with. Medical bills from their mother's illness still came in sporadically, collections agencies calling. The ranch operated on razor-thin margins, and sentiment was a luxury they couldn't afford. Elliot finally looked up from his work. Your call, son. You're running things now. That was true. Elliot had officially turned operations over to Kai 6 months ago, though the old man still worked dawn to dusk, his body knowing no other way. But the weight of decision-making, the burden of keeping the ranch viable, that fell on Kai's 29-year-old shoulders now. Saturday, Kai repeated. Riley, make sure he's ready for transport. Riley nodded stiffly and walked away, but not before shooting one last look at Maverick. The bull in question stood in the far corner of the pen, a massive Angus with a coat so black it seemed to absorb light. He was beautifully built, thick muscled shoulders, strong legs, perfect conformation. On paper, he should have been their best breeding bull. But there was something in his eyes, a wariness that made other bulls see him as weak, and cows see him as unworthy. Kai had raised Maverick from a calf, had bottle-fed him when his mother rejected him after a difficult birth, had named him Maverick because even then, the calf had been different, quieter than the others, more observant, keeping to himself. I'm sorry, Kai muttered, though Maverick couldn't hear him from this distance. But I can't keep you out of sentiment. This is business. That night, Kai couldn't sleep. He sat on the porch of the ranch house, a structure his great-grandfather had built in 1947, and stared at the dark shapes of cattle in the distance. Somewhere out there, Maverick stood alone in his pen, 3 days away from being loaded onto a truck and shipped to slaughter. His phone buzzed. A text from Sage. Heard about Maverick. Are you really selling him? Word traveled fast in ranch families. Riley must have told her. Kai typed back, don't have a choice. Can't keep an animal that won't do his job. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally. Sometimes the best things don't fit into boxes we make for them. Love you, big brother. But I think you're making a mistake. Kai didn't respond. What could he say? That he knew she was right but couldn't afford to act on it? That every time he looked at Maverick, he saw his own failures reflected back. The college degree and agricultural business that hadn't prepared him for the emotional weight of these decisions, the girlfriend who'd left him because she couldn't handle the isolation of ranch life, the constant feeling that he was disappointing everyone, including himself. Thursday morning arrived with unexpected visitors. A silver SUV pulled up the drive, and two people emerged, a man and woman in their 30s, dressed too nicely for a ranch visit. "Can I help you?" Kai asked, meeting them by their vehicle. "I'm Dr. Asher Monroe," the man said, extending his hand. "This is my colleague, Dr. Lennox Hart. We're veterinary researchers from Montana State University. We're looking for a bull named Maverick." Kai's confusion must have shown on his face. "We received a call from your foreman, Riley Chen," Dr. Hart explained. She was tall, with red hair pulled back and intelligent green eyes. "She sent us video footage of your bull and asked us to take a look. Mr. Winters, has anyone ever suggested that Maverick might have what we call sensory processing sensitivity?" "What?" "It's a neurological variation," Dr. Monroe continued. "Essentially, Maverick processes sensory information differently than other bulls. He's not weak or defective. His brain is wired to be more aware, more cautious, more responsive to environmental stimuli. In humans, we'd call him highly sensitive." Kai stared at them. "You're telling me my bull has, what, anxiety?" "Not exactly," Hart said, "but he likely experiences the world more intensely than other cattle. Sounds are louder, social dynamics more stressful, environmental changes more overwhelming. That's why he doesn't compete with other bulls. The aggression and chaos of dominance fights are probably sensory overload for him. So he's useless for breeding." "Actually, no." Monroe pulled out a tablet. "Recent studies show that bulls with SPV, sensory processing variation, often have superior genetic traits. They're more disease-resistant, have better temperament for handling, and when allowed to breed in low-stress environments, they produce exceptional offspring. Maverick's not defective, Mr. Winters. He's just different, and that difference might make him extraordinarily valuable." Kai felt the ground shift beneath him. How valuable? "We'd need to run tests, but if our initial assessment is correct, his genetics could be worth tens of thousands in specialized breeding programs. Programs specifically designed for producing calm, handler-friendly cattle. The demand for low-stress livestock is exploding. Animal welfare standards are changing the industry." Riley appeared from the barn, her expression carefully neutral. "I called them Tuesday," she admitted. "After you decided to sell him, I thought there had to be a reason Maverick was the way he is." Kai looked from Riley to the researchers to the distant pen where Maverick stood. "He's scheduled to ship Saturday, to slaughter." "Cancel it," Hart said simply. "Let us study him. If we're right, you're not just saving a bull, you're potentially securing your ranch's future." Friday morning, Kai walked out to Maverick's pen at dawn, coffee in hand, head full of the researchers' words. They'd taken blood samples yesterday, run preliminary tests, promised results within 24 hours. But when he reached the pen, his coffee cup slipped from his hand and shattered on the ground. The gate hung open. The pen was empty. Maverick was gone. Kai's shout brought Riley and Elliot running. The three of them stood at the empty pen, staring at the open gate that Kai knew, absolutely knew, he'd latched last night. "How?" Kai breathed. "I checked this gate myself at 10 p.m. Riley examined the latch mechanism. "It's not broken. Someone opened it. Or..." She looked at the gate more closely, then at the ground. "Or Maverick figured it out." "Bulls don't open gates," Elliot said, but his tone was uncertain. "Smart ones do." Riley pointed at scuff marks in the dirt. "Look, he worked at this for a while, probably all night. Those researchers said he processes things differently. Maybe that includes problem solving." Kai pulled out his phone, already dialing the livestock recovery hotline. "We need to find him before he gets onto the highway or someone else's property. A loose bull is a lawsuit waiting to happen." Within an hour, 6 neighboring ranchers had joined the search. Word spread fast in rural Montana. A valuable bull was loose, and everyone knew the unspoken code. You helped because someday you'd need help too. But as morning stretched into afternoon, there was no sign of Maverick. He'd vanished completely. 2,000 pounds of black bull can't just disappear, muttered Hayes Tucker, their neighbor from the adjacent property. We've covered every acre between here and the national forest boundary. Unless he went into the forest, Riley said quietly. Everyone looked at her. The national forest bordered the northern edge of the Double W, thousands of acres of dense pine and rough terrain. Cattle occasionally wandered in, but usually stayed near the edge. Going deep into the forest was unusual, almost unheard of. Why would he go there? Kai asked. Because it's quiet. No other bulls, no stress, no chaos. If those researchers are right about his sensitivity, maybe he's been looking for escape all along. Dr. Monroe and Dr. Hart arrived at noon with their test results, only to learn Maverick had vanished. The preliminary blood work confirms our hypothesis, Monroe said, looking devastated. Maverick has genetic markers we've only seen in 3 other bulls worldwide. His stress hormone regulation is unique. He's literally built differently at a cellular level. Mr. Winters, that bull could be the foundation of an entirely new breeding line. He could also be lost forever in 10,000 acres of wilderness, Kai said, his voice hollow. Hart pulled up a topographical map on her tablet. If he's seeking low-stress environment, he'd avoid open areas where he's visible. He'd look for shelter, water, isolation. There. She pointed to a section of forest with a creek running through it, surrounded by dense pine. That's where I'd go if I were him. By 3 p.m., Kai, Riley, Elliot, and the 2 researchers were hiking into the forest, following the creek Hart had identified. The terrain was rough, the undergrowth thick. They called Maverick's name, though Kai felt foolish doing it. Bulls didn't come when called like dogs. Wait, Riley said suddenly, holding up her hand. Listen. They fell silent. In the distance, barely audible over the creek's babble, came a sound. Low, resonant. A bull's bellow. They found him 20 minutes later in a small clearing beside the creek. Maverick stood in dappled sunlight, drinking from the clear water, completely calm. When he saw them approach, he didn't bolt or charge. He simply watched, his dark eyes reflecting something that looked almost like relief. Hey, buddy, Kai said softly, approaching slowly. You really had us worried. Maverick took a step toward him, not away, toward, and lowered his massive head. Kai reached out tentatively and touched the bull's forehead, feeling the warmth of his hide, the steady strength of him. He wasn't running from us, Hart said quietly, watching the interaction. He was running from the environment we put him in. The constant competition, the noise, the stress of a traditional breeding setup. He needed this, space, quiet, peace. So what do I do? Kai asked, his hand still on Maverick's head. I can't let him live wild in the forest. No, Monroe agreed, but you can change how you manage him. Separate breeding area, low stress handling, minimal social pressure. Let him breed on his own terms, in his own time, with cows that are calm and receptive. Maverick isn't broken, Mr. Winters. Your system was just wrong for him. Getting Maverick back to the ranch took 3 hours. They couldn't force him. He was too big, too strong. Instead, they walked with him, letting him set the pace, following the creek back down the mountain. Riley led with a bucket of grain, Maverick following like this was his choice, not theirs. As sunset painted the Montana sky orange and gold, they settled Maverick not in the isolation pen, but in a larger, quieter pasture on the east side of the property, away from the main herd, away from the aggressive bulls and the chaos of the central corrals. Maverick immediately relaxed, lowering his head to graze, his entire body language changing from tense to calm. Look at him, Elliot said, standing beside his son at the fence. All this time we thought he was the problem. Turns out we were making him into something he wasn't meant to be. Kai felt something break open in his chest. How many times had he felt exactly like Maverick, trapped in expectations that didn't fit, judged as defective when he was simply different? His phone buzzed. Dr. Hart had sent the full genetic analysis. Kai read it once, then twice, then a third time to make sure he understood. Maverick's genetics weren't just valuable, they were potentially revolutionary. Dr. Monroe returned to the ranch Monday morning with a team from Montana State and a proposal that made Kai's head spin. We want to establish the Double W as a research site for low-stress cattle breeding, Monroe explained, spreading documents across the kitchen table. Maverick would be the foundation sire. We'd provide funding, veterinary support, and access to our university's resources. In exchange, we study the offspring and collect breeding data. How much funding? Kai asked carefully. $50,000 annually for 5 years, plus coverage of all veterinary costs related to the program. And royalties on any genetics we commercialize, 15% to your operation. Kai stared at the number. $50,000 would change everything. Pay off the medical debt, help with Sage's tuition, actually pay Riley what she deserved instead of the reduced salary she'd accepted when times got tough. There's one condition, Dr. Hart added. Maverick stays here, under your management. This only works if he remains in the low-stress environment where he's thriving. We're not taking him. We're partnering with you. Elliot, who'd been listening silently from his chair by the window, finally spoke. What happens to Maverick when the 5 years are up? He lives out his life here, Monroe said. That's non-negotiable in our program. These animals aren't products. They're research partners. Maverick retires comfortably on your land when his breeding years are done. Riley entered with fresh coffee. The preliminary breeding we attempted yesterday was successful. Maverick bred 2 cows in the isolated pasture with no intervention, no stress, no problems. He just needed the right environment. Kai looked at his father, reading the question in his eyes. This was Kai's decision to make. Elliot had given him control of the ranch, but the old man's opinion still mattered more than anything. What do you think, Dad? Elliot stood slowly, walked to the window overlooking the east pasture where Maverick grazed peacefully. I think we almost threw away something precious because we couldn't see past our own expectations. I think your mother would tell us that different isn't wrong. It's just different. And I think Maverick deserves a chance to show us what he's really capable of. Kai signed the papers. The news spread through Montana's ranching community like wildfire. The Double W struggling operation that everyone pitied had suddenly become home to one of the most valuable breeding bulls in the state. The bull they'd almost sold for meat was now worth potentially millions. Phone calls came from ranchers wanting to buy Maverick. Kai turned them all down, but one call, 3 weeks later, made him reconsider everything. Mr. Winters? My name is Sienna Cross. I own Cross Creek Ranch about 200 miles south of you. I heard about your bull, and I need to talk to you about something urgent. Sienna arrived the next day. A woman in her early 40s, weathered by sun and work, desperation evident in every line of her face. My operation is going under, she said bluntly, sitting across from Kai in the ranch office. Drought killed my grazing land, debts crushing me, and my herd's genetics are weak. Disease problems, low birth weights, constant vet bills. I heard Maverick produces offspring with superior disease resistance. Mr. Winters, I'll pay anything for breeding access. Name your price. Kai studied her. He saw himself 6 months ago. Desperate, struggling, backed into corners with no good options. How bad is it? I've got maybe 60 days before the bank forecloses. 20 years of my life gone. Unless I can turn things around fast. Riley, who'd been listening from the doorway, spoke up. What if we did something different? What if Maverick's first offspring, when they're old enough, go to operations like yours? Ranchers who are struggling, who need better genetics but can't afford the usual market prices. Sienna looked at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. You'd just give them away? Not give, Kai said slowly, the idea forming as he spoke. But make them accessible. Affordable. Maverick came from struggle, from rejection and near death. Maybe his legacy should be helping operations like ours survive. Dr. Monroe, who'd been reviewing data on his laptop, looked up. That's actually brilliant from a research perspective. We'd get genetic data from diverse environments and management styles, and it builds goodwill in the ranching community, which we need for the program to succeed long term. By the time Sienna left that afternoon, she had a contract guaranteeing her first access to Maverick's offspring at cost, payable over 5 years. She cried when she signed it. You just saved my ranch, she whispered. How do I thank you for that? By doing the same for someone else someday, Kai said. That night, As Kai checked on Maverick in the quiet pasture, his father joined him at the fence. "Your mother would be proud," Elliot said. "Not just of saving the ranch, of how you're doing it. We almost killed him, Dad. I almost sent him to slaughter because he didn't fit what I thought he should be. But you didn't. And when you realized the truth, you changed. That's what matters. Not that we make mistakes, but that we correct them when we see them clearly." Maverick raised his head from grazing, looking directly at them. In the moonlight, his black coat seemed to shimmer. The bull that nobody wanted. The animal they'd labeled defective. The one they almost threw away. Now he was their salvation. 6 months into the breeding program, disaster struck. Kai woke at 4 a.m. to Riley pounding on his door. "It's Maverick. Something's wrong." They found him lying on his side in the pasture, breathing labored, his dark eyes glazed with pain. Dr. Hart, who now lived in a cabin on the property during the research period, was already examining him with a portable ultrasound. "Twisted gut," she said grimly. "Intestinal torsion. It's critical. We need surgery immediately or we lose him." "How long does he have?" Kai demanded. "Hours. Maybe less. We need to transport him to the University Veterinary Hospital. It's the only facility equipped for this kind of surgery on a bull his size." "That's 3 hours away," Riley said. "He won't survive the transport in this condition." Hart's face went pale. "Then we operate here. Now. I'll need every pair of hands we have." The barn transformed into an emergency surgical suite. Hart called in Dr. Monroe and 2 other veterinary residents from the university. They had portable anesthesia equipment, surgical instruments, but nothing close to ideal conditions. "This is insane," Monroe muttered, scrubbing his hands in a bucket. "Performing major abdominal surgery in a barn? Would you rather let him die?" Hart snapped. For 4 hours they worked. Kai held Maverick's head, whispering reassurances to the sedated bull while Hart and her team cut him open and manually untwisted his intestines. The barn smelled of blood and antiseptic. Twice Maverick's heart rate dropped dangerously low. Twice Hart managed to stabilize him. Dawn was breaking when they finally closed the incision. "He made it through surgery," Hart said, exhausted and covered in blood. "But the next 48 hours are critical. Infection, complications, anything could still kill him." Kai didn't leave Maverick's side for 2 days. He slept in the barn, monitored every breath, administered medications under Hart's supervision. Riley brought food he barely touched. Elliot sat with him during the long night hours, not speaking, just present. On the 3rd day, Maverick stood up. The relief was so profound that Kai broke down, tears streaming down his face as the massive bull shook himself and took tentative steps around the barn. "Welcome back, buddy," Kai whispered. But the crisis had consequences. During those 2 days, 3 major cattle operations had called, wanting to pull out of breeding contracts. News of Maverick's illness had spread, and doubts were surfacing. Was this miracle bull actually fragile? Would his genetics carry hidden weaknesses? "We're losing credibility," Riley said, showing Kai the emails. "People are getting nervous." Then Sienna Cross called. "Kai, I just wanted you to know, Maverick's first calf was born on my ranch yesterday. A bull calf, healthy, strong. And there's something different about him. He's calm like his father, but confident. Doesn't spook, doesn't panic. My vet says he's never seen such a relaxed newborn bull." "How's his mother?" Kai asked. "That's the thing. She was my sickest cow, always getting respiratory infections. But this pregnancy? No problems at all. It's like Maverick's genetics protected the calf even in utero. Kai, whatever you're doing with that bull, it's working. Don't let people's fear stop you." More reports came in over the following weeks. Every ranch that had used Maverick's genetics was reporting the same thing. Exceptional calves, fewer health problems, calmer temperaments. The data was undeniable. Dr. Monroe presented the findings at a major agricultural conference. The response was overwhelming. Suddenly, operations across the western United States wanted access to Maverick's breeding program. "We need to expand," Monroe told Kai. "The demand is 10 times what we projected. But that means more pressure on Maverick, more breeding, more stress, the exact opposite of what makes him successful." Kai watched Maverick through the barn window, still recovering but growing stronger each day. The bull who'd almost died. The bull they'd almost thrown away twice now, once for being defective, once to illness. No, Kai said firmly. We expand slowly, carefully. Maverick breeds on his timeline, not ours. Quality over quantity, that's non-negotiable. You could make millions if you pushed harder, Monroe said. And lose everything that makes this special, Kai replied. Maverick taught me that forcing things to fit our expectations destroys their value. I'm not making that mistake again. Monroe smiled. Your father was right. Your mother would be proud. 2 years later, Kai stood at the fence watching Maverick graze peacefully in his pasture, now shared with his 3 favorite cows and 2 of his offspring, young bulls learning from their father's calm presence. The Double W had become a destination. Ranchers came from across the country to see the operation, to understand how low-stress breeding could transform their herds. Sage had returned after graduation, working as the program's education coordinator. Riley had become a partner in the operation. Her instincts about Maverick validated 100 times over. There's someone here to see you, Sage called from the barn. A teenage boy stood nervously by a truck, his father beside him. Mr. Winters, I'm Noah. This is my dad, Marcus. We drove from Idaho. Our ranch is failing, and we heard you help people like us. Kai saw himself in the boy's desperate eyes, saw the weight of expectations, the fear of failure, the crushing burden of trying to save something precious. Come on, Kai said, gesturing toward Maverick's pasture. Let me tell you about a bull everyone said was worthless. They walked together, Kai sharing the story, the rejection, the near slaughter, the escape into the forest, the discovery of what Maverick really was when given the right environment. The thing is, Kai said, we almost destroyed something extraordinary because we couldn't see past our expectations. Maverick wasn't broken. Our system was. Once we understood that, everything changed. Can we afford his genetics? Marcus asked quietly. We don't have much. We'll work something out. That's what this program is about, giving operations like yours a fighting chance. Maverick came from struggle. His legacy should be helping others survive theirs. As sunset painted the Montana sky, Maverick approached the fence. The bull who'd been rejected, who'd vanished into the forest, who'd nearly died on an operating table. Now he stood calm and confident, the foundation of something bigger than any of them had imagined. Noah reached out tentatively and touched Maverick's nose. The bull didn't pull away. He's not scary at all, the boy whispered. No, Kai agreed. He never was. We just didn't understand him. But once we did, once we created space for him to be who he really was, he became everything we needed. Elliot joined them, older now but still present every day. Your mother used to say the best things in life don't announce themselves with trumpets. They arrive quietly, unnoticed, rejected even. And only later do we realize what we almost lost. Kai thought about that dawn when he discovered Maverick gone, the panic and fear that had gripped him. He'd thought he was searching for a lost bull. But really, he'd been searching for understanding, of Maverick, of himself, of what truly mattered. Thank you, Marcus said, shaking Kai's hand, for giving us hope. As they drove away, Riley joined Kai at the fence. Another family saved. Another family giving Maverick's offspring a chance, Kai corrected. It's not us saving them. It's Maverick's genetics, his temperament, his gift spreading through herds that need it. Maverick bellowed softly, as if agreeing. The bull nobody wanted had become the bull everyone needed. And in saving him, they'd saved themselves. Not despite his differences, but because of them. The sun set over the Double W Ranch, painting everything in gold. Maverick stood silhouette against the sky, no longer rejected, no longer lost. Finally seen for exactly what he'd always been. Extraordinary.